Now, on talkSPORT 2 later on this afternoon, we're going to bring you Formula E. We've got this weekend 2 races in Jeddah in Saudi. And joining us now, it's from 5 p.m, by the way, and joining us now, fresh from qualifying, is a former Formula E and indeed Formula 1 driver, Karun Chandhok. Good afternoon, Karun.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're good, thank you. The qualifying in Formula E is very different. This is a bit sort of football-like in its format. Tell us more.
It is interesting, actually. It's very different and unique in the world of motorsport. So you've got the 2 group stages, which I guess football fans were used to, and then eventually you get to a knockout phase of quarters, semis, and the finals. So we've just had that. And in Formula E, they get different power modes, because with the electric cars, you can do that quite easily. The flick of a switch, go between different power modes. So for the drivers, it's quite a challenge. They go from having, 300 kilowatts and just 2-wheel drive in the group stages to having cars with 4-wheel drive and 350 kilowatts. So it's going 2 seconds a lap faster between literally one lap to the next when they go from groups to the duel. So it's been exciting and was very close. And we got an all-German front row at the end of it.
You've driven in both formats, Formula E and F1. I mean, what are the main differences, would you say?
I suppose the main one is one's fully electric and one is a hybrid. Formula 1 cars went to hybrids in 2014, which coincided with the start of Formula E. I was around in that first season of FE when I was driving. So, but fundamentally, it's a totally different vertical of the sport. And I think you have to treat it as that. I think the common thing, obviously, that the motorsport fans and I guess sports fans want to do is compare and contrast the 2 disciplines. But for me, I think you need to treat each branch of the sport differently. A bit like sports car racing in Le Mans. It's a completely different vertical of the sport. Yes, it's cars. It's got 4 wheels and a steering wheel, but it's a different type of racing. Formula E runs predominantly on street circuits, runs in city centers. The races are shorter, and it's showcasing a completely different type of power, really, with all electrics.
Yeah, as anybody who's ever gone from a sort of standard car, a diesel petrol car, into an electric car, it's that acceleration, Karun, isn't it, that catches you out? Was that the case when you went into Formula E? Yeah,
absolutely. These cars now, in fact, because they're 4-wheel drive off the start, they'll get from a standing start to 200 kilometers an hour in under 2 seconds. It's just that 4-wheel drive launches the drivers off the line and head into the headrest. It's kind of akin to being on a roller coaster, really. If you've been on a super fast roller coaster, that first kick you get is pretty much what you feel here. So it is very impressive now.
Very show busy as well as a sport. Idris Elba, fine British actor, is involved in one of the teams, isn't he?
He is, yes. I think he's one of the shareholders now of the Kiro team, who had a pretty good qualifying. They had a driver into the dual stages for the first time this season. So I don't know where he's watching from, but I presume he's somewhere watching on telly or listening on talkSPORT and cheering his team on.
And there's going to be pit stops, aren't there, in this race, which they don't always have. And I'm just reading about it here. It's basically I wondered what they do in the pit stop, but they're just going to boost the battery, aren't they, in a sort of supercharged
What if someone's there with their Tesla having a sandwich waiting for theirs to charge first? That won't happen,
well,
will it?
you say that. No, so we had pit stops, so to speak, in the first 3 seasons where the batteries weren't good enough to do a complete race. So we had to swap cars where, I was in there where you'd have to practice pulling into the pits, jump out of one car, run across the pits, jump in the next one and drive off. And I guess now we've seen 10 years of evolution in the sport. The cars are capable of doing a full race. In fact, we had Brazil and Mexico, and in fact, the race tomorrow will be without a pit stop, but we're trialing in some of the races this year to have a pit stop, which will add 10% of energy. Now, you just mentioned, and I drive an electric car, right? You pull up at the gas station and you do plug the car in, go get a sandwich and a bag of crisps and come back. But here, the chargers here have got nearly 600 kilowatts of power. What does it actually mean? To give you context, if you pull up at the motorway services, even your fastest chargers They say 300 kilowatts, but generally they offer you about 100 because they're full of other people. So you're going to have 6 times the amount of charging power going into the cars as you would at the motorway services. So the drivers will have 30 seconds, not quite long enough to get a sarnie down into them. But it'll have 30 seconds and it'll add an extra 10% of power, which, to be honest, if we can get this technology proven on the racetrack and out there in the roads, then the sandwich business will be in trouble.
Yeah. And finally, a month today, of course, the F1 season gets underway in Melbourne. Should be a fascinating season, shouldn't it? With some interesting changes, including Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. How are you seeing it?
I'm super excited. 80% of the grid have got a whole new lineup in terms of the driver lineup or driver pairing. So I'm very excited to be, as you say, I think it's exactly a month to the date I get on the plane to go to Melbourne for that first Grand Prix. And there's such a buzz about Lewis at Ferrari. When the first pictures got released, I was in the local Sainsbury's and the local coffee shop, and everyone was talking about it. The person at the till was excited about it. People in the queue were excited about, whoa, how is Lewis going to get on? There's such a buzz about Lewis going to Ferrari. But I think, we have to recognize this could be Lando's first time where he enters the season as a championship favorite. Yeah. McLaren ended last year as the favorites. So that's exciting. He's got a tremendous following now in the UK. And can Max Verstappen and Red Bull recover to win 5 titles in a row, which will be an unprecedented record.
Nice one. Good to talk to you, Karun. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
There we are. Karun Chandhok there, the former F1 and Formula E driver. And the first ever Jeddah E-Prix is on talkSPORT 2 from 5 p.m. this afternoon. And you can check out more from the pit lane on the talkSPORT Driving YouTube channel.